Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been on a social media app, let's say Instagram or Facebook, and then you see one of your friends from one country is, you go on their page and you stalk them because you're that kind of person, you wanted to see what they're up to. But then, through stalking them, you see that they're following your other friend from a completely different continent. So then you decide, you know what, let me go stalk that other friend now, let me see what he's got on his page. And then, to your surprise, they're following your other friend on Mars. So then you start to question yourself, wow, how on earth do they know each other? And then, wait, does that mean everyone knows everyone? So then you start to question if you're a long-lost friend of your favorite celebrity, or even if you're related to the Queen. It all sounds crazy, implausible. But is it? Is it that crazy? Can it be a reality? Well, in 1929, the Hungarian Frigyes asked the same question to himself. By the turn of the 20th century, intercontinental travel was the starting of a very amazing life, because it became available to the masses. Everyone can travel anywhere. It felt wonderful. So Frigyes wanted to know the potential of these social connections, and he wanted to know, in his own words, to look for what he has left undone, to search through the tangled cocoon for the one thread to unravel the world, to set all the links into motion. 1.5 billion people. That was the population of Earth in 1929. One of Frigyes' friend, Selma, she suggested an experiment where one person on Earth can reach anyone, anywhere, through just 5 people. Inspired by the movie 6 Degrees of Separation, in 1950, Etienne del Solapol and Manfred Lotchen set out to prove the theory mathematically. A complete graph, where every edge in a graph is connected to each other. But what if each human in the world with an edge on this graph? How would they all connect to each other? This was the method on which the 6-degree theory was attempted to be proved on mathematically. But after 20 years, they were unable to solve the problem to their satisfaction. And to this day, scientists are still lagging in a proper mathematical understanding of the theory. 1967. The Vietnam War still rages in the tropics. A deadly accident on Apollo 1 killed 3 astronauts in America. Elvis Presley gets married in Las Vegas, because, it's the 60s. American sociologist Stanley Milgram adopts the phrase the small world problem for the 6 degrees of separation. He conducted a social experiment. He wanted to see if a random person in Nebraska in America, or even Kansas in America, would be connected to someone in Boston. He instructed a person in Nebraska or Kansas to send a package to a friend of theirs, after they picked that friend depending on how likely they will be knowing that person in Boston. And you know what? It worked. 64 of the letters reached the target contact in Boston. And the average length? Surprise, surprise, 6 people. Not only did Stanley prove the theory was applicable to the real world, but he also showed how physically long human connections are. How 2 people from 2 different states, so far and wide apart, would be connected. But, the experiment that he did start to fall apart. For starters, the sample size was meant to be 296, but, no one wanted to reply to spam mail, even in the 60s. So that was a problem with non-compliance, and that was rampant. And it was never the true sample size of the experiment. And what made people think they would even know the person in Boston anyway? They may have not known them in any way at all. And the letter itself, well, it could have been sent in the complete wrong direction, farther away from the person in Boston, if it ever reached at all. And that would only make the length of the connection, the average, longer than 6 maybe. By the turn of the millennia, and the world is now more advanced and more connected, and there's more opportunities to prove this theory. 2001, a vast majority of the world had email addresses, and letters can be sent from one user to another in the entire world, practically effortlessly. Sociologist Duncan Watts saw an opportunity in this. He wanted to recreate Milgram's work in the digital age. He was sent a letter from 48,000 people in 157 countries to 19 targets. And the average length of people in between? 6. Again, just like the work of Etienne and Manfred, Duncan visualized these connections using graph theory. Only this time the graphs weren't complete and had different weights to each node in each connection, calling them hubs. 2008, Microsoft. They showed that an average of 6.6 connections is all you need to connect to 180 billion different pairs of users on the Microsoft Messenger database. Cut to today, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's ran his own simulations on this. The crazy guy from science that he's been on, on all kind of TV shows. This guy obviously wanted to get slicing on this, and you know what? He showed that it was even smaller. He showed that nowadays it's just 4 people you need to get connected to everyone in the world, and the Queen, and your favorite celebrity, and possibly find your inheritance that you owned but no one gave to you. But why does it all matter? Why does it matter that I will know someone in a complete different continent on the other side of the world? Well, the answer is simple. Anything is connected to anyone who is connected to everyone. Now, sociology is the study of our relations and our institutions and our causes and our changes and our consequences and essentially our lives. Humans are social animals. You have to understand how we function. The fact that we are connected to everyone opens up opportunities and possibilities never seen before. I mean, I could talk about how a businessman could have a connection to a friend, through a friend, through a friend to an uncle who has a connection to an entrepreneur, and they can get big money out of this. But, this is a medical channel. So I'm just going to focus on the medical aspects for now. But, 6 degrees of separation affects everyone in the best of ways. Social networking. It's still a huge part of medicine, not just business. A study in 2016 showed how from all of its participants, 67% of authors and co-authors were connected to the rest of the authors and the co-authors in the study. And again, the average number of intermediaries was 6. In 2012, the 6 degrees of separation, it was used to analyze and explain how drug-resistant tuberculosis spread uncontrollably. And without a cure, it was just spreading rampantly because of how connected we are. And more recently, the small world hypothesis, it was used to analyze and explain the spread of COVID, helping health coordinators understand how it spread, why it spread, where it will spread, how we can even combat it. But just like the roots of a tree, as mankind becomes more and more and more connected, as we know more people on the world, it becomes even smaller. Maybe one day, the only intermediary we need to know everyone in the world is just ourselves.